Andrew Heaton.
Hello.
Would you swap bodies with another human being for 24 hours?
100%.
100%.
100%. That sounds awesome. I like my body okay. I would love to see another model, see how it handles.
Yeah.
If we could switch genders, that'd be even better. I'd really like to see what that's like.
Okay, so you're going for a lady.
Uh-huh.
Interesting. I'm going to throw a little twist in there.
Okay.
The person that you're swapping bodies with, they are fully conscious of everything that happens during the swapping for this 24 hours.
Okay, that limits some of my activity. I've got a passenger.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So
Still good. I'm on good behavior. I'm just, trying stuff out.
So before you reveal this person, because I'm assuming you have like a few people in mind.
No.
Oh, nobody in mind. Oh, just the idea of a lady, and you're gonna be.
Well, don't make it sound like it's something pervy I'm doing. I've thus far
You're right.
lived my 39 years.
Yep. It'd be a woman.
Shackled in this elegant male body, and I would like to experience a day in a very different circumstance. I could shed some of my preconceptions. I could see what it's like.
Yes.
Wearing somebody else's shoes. So I feel like picking a different gender would be a good way to kind of maximize that difference. We can throw in some other races too. Yeah.
So this is a lot of words to basically justify.
Either much shorter or much taller.
Oh yeah, no, it can't be like. You're trying to think of. It couldn't be Matthew McConaughey, kind of like same height, kind of like similar bone structure,
or Craigslist Paul Rudd. That's yeah.
They just turned into like an insult Andrew podcast.
But yeah, I don't like that. Would be if I just wanted lots of praise, and presumably affection from the opposite sex. It'd be great but I'm doing okay.
Okay,
I'm going for the novelty. I'm going for the exploring and expanding my mind.
So there's something that we just blew past.
Okay,
which I think is a very important part of this. The person that you choose, they are 100% aware. Like they're going through the motions, they're having the conversations, and they're just along for the ride.
And that is why I will call them in advance. Okay.
Can't call them. They just snap. I don't know what's happening. And then, I'm hesitant to use the words mind rape.
Okay, yes. But I have to say that's a fairly apt description. So this random lady, I don't know, like Condoleezza Rice or somebody, is walking down the street, walking her dog, and boom, she's now a prisoner inside of the body while Heaton steers the boat?
Yes.
And there's no way to warn her. I can't call
okay. You know what? I want to meet
Theresa May and be like, hey.
I'm going to meet you halfway.
All right.
You can try to, but we exist in a world where this isn't a thing.
Oh, so I could be the psycho.
Yeah. No, like the psycho's on the phone. He's saying he's going to infiltrate your mind, but you're still going to know what's going on. But don't worry, he's not going to get too sketchy with it. Like you can be that guy.
Yeah.
And to the extent that you're very persuasive and can convince them to just buckle up, then good on you.
Now I'm back on because when you said that I can't warn them.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that really, I feel like would be a deep psychic violation of somebody.
No, it's horrible.
I don't think I'd feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
But now I can do it on a technicality.
Okay.
Because I could go to a Star Trek convention and then go up to get an autograph and be like, hey, this is a crazy question.
Right.
Theoretically.
Right.
If I could, through a Star Trek experiment, beam into your body tomorrow for 24 hours, are you cool with that?
Yeah.
And if they're like, yes, fine, please, next. Then it's like, well, at least I got that verbal thing going, right?
Yeah, the verbal thing. And then also that morning, in the bathroom mirror, you could say, hey, I don't know if you remember me. I'm the guy. I know you see your face.
I was in the Wrath of Khan uniform.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
This is actually
You said I looked like an ugly Paul Rudd, which I thought was very unprofessional of you, but we kind of laughed it off. And anyway, here we are.
Right.
I'm not going to do anything pervy.
Right.
I'm mostly just going to walk around and see what it's like getting catcalled. That's going to be what we do today. It might be your regular day. I don't know. Just kind of sit back.
So it's interesting because we'll start getting into some people that you would, commandeer, let's call it. Some specific people and what you think that experience would possibly be like compared to your own life. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting that you went for immediately just the novelty of something different and not, I want to make a giant, big impact. I'm going to drop into Jeff Bezos and give away all of the money that I can within 24 hours.
Whoa, that didn't even occur to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes me worse or better. I think I'm very narcissistic but novelty oriented. I got that going. But I could theoretically.
This would be like the ultimate Robin Hood move.
I could drop into Putin I could, yeah. If it's not about my personal journey, then there is some good I could do.
Impact the world in profound ways.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I ask you then what you would do? While I now think about these new powers at my disposal of the ability to change the world.
Can I be real honest with you?
Yes.
I just thought of this. I'm just talking out my ass. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't thought of anybody. Let me say Jeff Bezos.
He'd be fun.
Yeah.
What do you do as Jeff Bezos for a day?
Well, technically, I don't think he's a CEO anymore.
I think he's doing okay, though.
Yeah,
he's
doing fine. So he has a lot of personal money. And then the question is, well, if I don't have the direct hand on the levers of Amazon and this unlimited budget, like, yeah, well, what do I have access to? So maybe I do a little bit of preliminary research. It's like, okay, how much money does Jeff Bezos have direct access to? And then what would I be doing with those funds? Yeah, I mean,
okay, this sounds way better to me, right? Because when it was like, Heaton, do you want to experience this novel thing knowing that you are subverting someone's will and autonomy?
Right.
That felt very, very icky to me.
Right.
But now knowing I can
Heaton,
just go into space as Jeff Bezos for a day while he's my brain hostage.
Right.
Brain hostage sounds much better than mind rape. And for some reason when we do it female, it seems like mind rape. When we do brain hostage, it sounds kind of fun. It sounds like a wacky Friday switcheroo.
What was also interesting is that when we're talking about Jeff Bezos, there was no pretense of maybe I meet him and say, hey, Jeff, heads up. There's no heads up with Jeff Bezos. You're just going in there.
Yeah.
You're just
I'm
dropping
still going to
in.
give him the spiel, right?
Okay.
Like I'm going to go into the mirror and be like, hey, man, great news. I'm running the show for the day. Don't worry. I'm not going to break anything. I'm not going to do anything wrong. In my opinion, you're not doing a terrific job as an eccentric rich guy. You did go into space with Shatner. Hats off there. We're going to fill a ball pit over the entirety of Rhode Island. Whoa, how cool would that be, right? Because I feel like a lot of these eccentric billionaires don't do fun stuff with their money. Like Elon Musk bought Twitter. What a dumb thing to do with your money. He could have built a moon base.
100% agree. And there's a lot of people that have very strong opinions about Elon Musk. Here's why I very much appreciate what he does. It has like imagination. It has ambition. There's some creativity there. It's like, what would you like a billionaire to do? Go to space? Figure out how to get a lot of other people in space?
Honestly, go into space with William Shatner.
Yeah.
It's like probably the top of my list.
And then what was another thing that you think a billionaire could do that would be cool? I'm going to try and fix traffic. That'd be cool. Electric cars that are like way more performance capable than regular cars. That'd be pretty cool. What else? Oh, maybe just like for shits and giggles, still a flamethrower.
Yeah. No, honestly, the only problem I have is Twitter. I just think that was a rather useless expenditure of money that could have been put to a more fun thing.
Okay. Let's talk about that because I am very much on the fence as to whether or not I agree with this. Because if you're looking at whether or not Twitter was the default public square and that needed to be protected from people who are anti-free speech. It's like, that is a very noble idea. I don't know if it was based entirely in reality because I don't swim in those waters, quite frankly. But to see that $42 billion purchase is basically a way of defending our democracy because it is so central to the power players having conversations. I appreciate the thought behind it. I don't know if it was the smartest move. What's your opinion on Twitter?
Imagine going into a dive bar where everyone throws beer bottles at you. That's how I think of Twitter. I think it's real good for coordinating flood relief and Iranian revolutions. And outside of that, I think it's been a flop. And between Moonbase, where Twitter is slightly more free, hardcore Moonbase.
Okay. Interesting. Yes. But on Twitter, the dive bar, I see people on Twitter who are, just the trolls and the asshats who are just dropping bombs and all the isms that you can think of, but also the people who are politicians and are journalists and people that are kind of framing the public narrative and the conversation. Those people are on Twitter as well. And that echo chamber became so incestuous and lopsided that these people are just getting these ideologies reinforced that aren't really representative of the country at large. So dive bar, but the people in the corner is like, holy shit, they hold the keys to what giant news corporation? And those people get to make laws concerning what giant relevant part of my life? So yes, I think there's a lot of assets, but two, There's so many people who were important on Twitter having conversations that weren't fair, even-handed conversations.
I think it's been good for allowing everybody to talk directly to everybody, and that includes people in power.
And then you realize not everybody has something interesting to say.
Not everybody has something interesting to say, but on top of that, like 80% of the tweets on Twitter come from 20% of the people who are not a proportional representation of the United States or the world or anything like that. So again, Moonbase. Much better, in my opinion. By the way,
I agree.
Another fun thing you could do is this would just be to stir up shit, right? Let's say you come into Biden, and Biden goes, "Yeah, we killed Kennedy. we whacked that guy. Like we whacked. It's been enough time, right? Just like a couple of things like that, and then like, and there are aliens. Oh, and then
could totally steer if you're dropping in like a president or politician. Yeah, completely reframe the conversation. Hey, remember that day when Biden just went totally off the rails and just started. Yeah. That would
I think I can make it pretty believable too.
Oh, like the ripple. Yeah, just stutter like.
I don't know that it would do any good, but it would be interesting if I were trollish. That would be a thing. If you were going to maximize good, because we've got the Freaky Friday scenario, because we as Americans like having this idea of the sad billionaire. He's got all the money, but his tickaroo just isn't in the right place. So I can beam into him and get him the ball pit and the hot air balloon, and he finds love with the barista.
This is why I'm more comfortable dropping mental hostage with Bezos over Musk, because Musk, you know what? You're doing some stuff that's interesting and fun. Keep doing what you're doing. I don't know if I could do a better job doing interesting, fun, smart things. Bezos, it's like, man, you got all the money. Let's just mix it up. Let's have some fun. And then if our goal now is not how do we ruin Condoleezza Rice's day, if our goal is now how do we improve the world, then I think this is an interesting thought process. Should we land on Jeff Bezos? That's the person. And then what would we do with that money?
I'm not. If we're going to improve the world,
or are you going? Oh, you going politician? You going Putin? You going?
Maybe.
You dropping in a Trump there? What are we doing?
Let's say that our goal with Jeff Bezos is not to to maximize novelty on a mass scale. By putting, turning Rhode Island into a ball pit or dropping silver dollars from a blimp or something like that, right? But we're actually maximizing the stuff. I don't know. I mean, a lot of my friends would say, shut Amazon down. That will make the world better. I don't agree. I don't think that the world would be better if Amazon didn't exist. You might be able to tweak it in a way that makes it better, but I don't think that you're going to find a huge amount of utility in getting Jeff Bezos to radically go a different direction than he's already going. Yeah. But somebody like Xi Jinping, Xi Jinping, thank you, or Putin, or even the U.S. president, something like that, I could see something big happening.
Now, here's a consideration, though, because we're at the wheel for a day. Right. And then maybe even go into it with like a game plan, and we're going to talk to this person this hour, and we're going to put these funds and these resources in these areas and change these policies very publicly. After the day, they're back in the wheel. They're back in the driver's seat. And then they can backtrack possibly whatever you set in motion.
I got a really dark question for you.
Oh, okay. You just at the end of the day, you kill yourself?
Yes. Let's say at the end of the day, I've got 10 minutes left, and I'm like, where are them sleeping pills?
All right.
And like, they're probably going to hit right after I leave.
Oh, see, now, this did get dark. Goodbye, monetization. Here we go.
I'm not killing Condoleezza Rice, by the way. That is not who I'm wanting to murder in this scenario. I just wanted that in my back pocket. I haven't picked my leader yet.
Okay. So if it's somebody that we think is probably a bad person, and we don't want them to backtrack all of these obviously very well thought out, wise and good changes that we're making in their body, mental hostage.
Brain hostage. Brain hostage. My preferred term.
Brain hostage. Yeah. So the preferred method would be not a gun, because who knows if you take yourself out as well. It would be sleeping pills. So you down the sleeping pills, right at the stroke of midnight or whenever it starts.
So if it catches before midnight, I die.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
No, you got to be on the ball. There's got to be some consequence for you if you're sloppy about this.
That seems
This is
fair.
a high stakes game, Andrew.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That seems fair. I think I could time this right.
Okay.
Or you take something that utterly ruins your kidneys or something like that.
Oh, you know what? You know what'd be pretty interesting? These really hardcore, bad no drugs, not in a million years, because it will possibly kill you. But you just want to see what that ride's like without any of the potential risk or consequences. You just do all of these drugs, and then you're just blitzed to the gills And
So you use a brain hostage as a test drive
Yeah.
for LSD or something like that?
well, it's not LSD. You'll be fine. I'm
Yeah.
talking about like
Yeah.
the fentanyl and like the crack and the meth and intentionally overdosing.
That seems the most selfish of anything.
No, we passed reasonable
I think I've got
and
the thing I'm
kind
going to
a long
do.
time ago.
I'm not going to mess with Putin, actually, for this reason. I think if you try and kill Putin or something like that, there's no guarantee that whoever comes in is going to be any better.
Fair enough.
It's not like there's like Vice President Kamala Putin waiting in the wings where we're like, well, she's probably going to be more central. Like, we don't know, right? And I don't know that if you could try to swing the war or something in a way, but I don't know that in one day you'd be able to do it. I think I would go with Chinese president again, Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping.
Yeah, Xi Jinping.
I think I would do that, and I would get the biggest microphone possible. I would talk about Tiananmen Square, Tibet, Taiwan, stuff like that. Like, so when I was doing stand up in Shanghai like 6 years ago, they were very explicit. Like, have fun. You cannot say anything about Tibet, Tiananmen Square, Taiwan, any living member of the Politburo, which pissed me off as a comedian. I don't have any jokes about any of those, by the way. I don't have any Tibet jokes.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Chinese Communist Party has such a tight grip on that country. Like Russia strikes me as this kleptocracy. Of just kind of authoritarian thugs, but there's not really an ideology binding it. There's no ideology to attack, whereas I think there is in communist China. And having somebody come out and just air the laundry and be like, here are the bad things we've done to control you because we believe we should control you. And like, I think you could actually like plant some seeds there with that big megaphone.
Oh, that is interesting because right now you're not allergic to the ripple effect that can totally cause violence and chaos and whatnot. Because you and I had a previous conversation. It was actually it was a theoretical conversation. Would you delete the internet if you could? This is in your Patreon. And
No, it was on the main feed.
it was on the main feed. Awesome.
You made it to the main feed. Good job.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
We did it. That was a lot of fun.
A lot of angry people wrote in.
Oh, yeah. So we decided, let's do it again.
We'll do it as a show. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll just turn that into a show. Yeah.
But in that situation, it's like you weren't comfortable taking that much authority and control and the ripple effects, like the ramifications, the consequences. This is different, though, because if China all of a sudden, just with one fell swoop, pulls back the curtain on all of this stuff, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people. You're looking at potentially revolution, countless deaths, and this is something that...
Well, my main problem with the internet was not so much the ripple effect, is I did not feel comfortable depriving everybody in perpetuity of that choice.
Yeah.
Because the question you put before is if you could hit a button and make the internet go away forever, go back to 1996
if you
forever,
could Thanos the internet,
would you do it? And I said no, because while we can make lots of good arguments about why it's bad, there are plenty of people that benefit from it. I don't want to take that away from them. In this instance, I'm not actually taking anything away from anybody. All I'm using is a megaphone to try to inject some good ideas into what otherwise strikes me as a stultifying authoritarian regime. And they can take it or leave it and do whatever they want with it. But I think what I could do is I could pull down some of the veil. I could show the emperor has no clothes and create some positive things. And there might be some repercussions to that. But
yes, well, that's exactly what I'm driving at. You don't want to take away choice. Good. But I'm going to get really granular. All right. So what about if this revolution kicks off and there's violence? All the people on the other end of this violent upheaval, they didn't have a choice as to whether or not they get, maimed or killed in the street or something. So at the end of the day, you are taking some choice. Like the people are thrown into this a chaotic situation.
Right.
So yeah, it's I think on paper the theory is sound, but in practice, like, dude, you're taking away some choice from people. Like just the quality of life and the stability that they've become accustomed to.
You've brought up a great philosophical construct. I can finally get into Edmund Burke. Are you very familiar with Edmund Burke?
I'm not even a little. Tell me.
Edmund Burke is a friend of the American Revolution. He's a member of Parliament. And when the revolution's happening, he's like, hey, they got a point. These are Englishmen. They have certain rights that have been that tradition and Parliament have prescribed to Englishmen. We've deprived them of these rights. They have some reasons for this. He kind of viewed us as like a rebellious teenage son who doesn't have the authority to leave the house, but dad is being a dick. So he has a point. That was kind of how he viewed it. He was for reconciliation. And then as the war drug on, he's like, guys, let's just trade with these guys. It's going to cost less to us in the long run to trade with them. So anyway, America loves this guy. He's yay, America. very by British standards, pro-American revolution. The French Revolution happens, and he's like, absolutely not, 100% no. And he articulates this approach to change of reform is the opposite of revolution.
Okay.
Reform is I am taking what works and I'm maintaining that, and I am now incrementally modifying the stuff that doesn't work. So the apparatus as a whole is pretty good. We're going to keep that apparatus. We're going to modify things, right? Whereas revolution is we're going to overturn the whole thing. The house has termites. We're going to set the house on fire. We're going to burn it to the ground. We're going to rebuild all of it, which is more like Thomas Paine in the French Revolution, right? Generally, I would be in that reformer position of there's probably some good stuff for maintaining, but I could see situations like North Korea, for example.
Yes.
North Korea is living in a prolonged Nazi Holocaust. It's just that they're doing it to themselves.
Yeah, you're not going to reform your way out of that.
No, there's 3 generations of people, maybe 4 generations now of people that have been grown up in multi-generational concentration camps. And so like in a situation like that, I think I can make a pretty good call that if they wanted to rise up and do it, I'd feel comfortable with it. With China, I'm a little bit more squeamish, but I think I'd still feel good about injecting those ideas.
Okay. Question, and you know what? I know that you are very familiar with politics, and you like getting into conversations like, hey, just maybe take a step back from politics and play a little bit, like the sci-fi stuff and books. But I have to ask, our own country, from my perspective, it's like, oh yeah, there's some structural, institutional things, some bureaucracies that are in dire need of reform, and they have needed reform for a very long time. But there's this calcification of the mechanisms, the gears of our governmental system that aren't working. And then you're starting to hear these voices in the wings saying, well, we need revolution, we need revolution. And I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of things that work, but what are the things that you think are preventing those things from actually working on behalf of the American people? Is it as simple as like lobbyists, or is it groupthink? Is it entrenched ideologies and people can't see the other side at all? Is it there's not actually 2 parties, there's just one party with very, very slight cultural differences, but our media is just amplifying those minor differences to the point where we can't make any movement whatsoever? What's your position on that?
I think it is a combination of gerrymandering of ideological forms and also inertia and scar tissue. So the former is, we're familiar with gerrymandering, where we cut up a district so that we know it's
gaming the system.
It's going to be 80% Republican, and technically there's election, but we've done what the Soviets did. It's a rigged election, right?
Yeah.
We've done that ideologically as well. So like in our current system, the way I would have it is the Republican and Democratic parties have as much effect on who's on the ballot as like the Firemen's Union or the Writers Guild or what. Let's just say you could totally say we, the Republicans, endorse that guy. Yeah. But as it is right now, we've allowed the gatekeepers to be one of 2 parties. The closed primary system, which predominates the majority of the country, is picking the candidates, and invariably that is the most ideologically partisan, anti-other guy group of that party. So the Republicans, basically the 15% of the craziest Republicans get to select the Republicans, the 15% of the Democrats that don't believe math is a thing. And you can just allocate resources based on interpretive dance. Like those 2 groups get to pick who the candidates are, and then 80% of 70% of
they're asking the question, is this really the best we can do?
We get King Joffrey and Ramsay Bolton. And they're like, who do you want? Well, Ramsay Bolton's got more government experience. But,
all right.
But King. So
circling back, you are in the land of the CCP and the Chinese government, Xi Jinping. What made you want to go to the other side of the planet and do some hopefully good?
Well, I mean, like
as opposed to
right now, I mean, it's not like anybody's suppressing information in the United States. If anything, we've got a cacophony, right? Like the problem is
there's not a single person that you can hold brain hostage for a day and then I
mean, like, okay, let's imagine I take over Biden, and it's like I come out and I'm like,
it's like Biden had a weird day.
We should have top 5 open primaries and ranked choice voting. Also, we need less regulation, but more of a social safety net. What have I done? No one's going to go, my God, the revolution's been unleashed. Biden's gone in a slightly more neoliberal direction in favor of electoral reform. That doesn't matter. I take over Rishi Sunak, and I'm like, yes, we're going to have the Lib Dem party be slightly larger. I don't think that there's not a lot of marginal utility there. Whereas I think there is for the Chinese. And on top of that, I think
just the sheer numbers of people in China too. If we're talking about just the volume.
Well, and you think about too, like the way opinions and information are promulgated in the United States, it is this there's never been more of a input from everybody. There's never been an easier time. You can be 17 and have a really funny TikTok video where you fall down some stairs and then say a funny thing, and then you're like, electoral reform, and like you can get that message out.
Right.
That is not a thing you could do in the Soviet Union.
Right.
You couldn't be a plucky 17-year-old that read some book and like get like that. You couldn't. So we have the easiest time of getting stuff at, and that's causing a bottleneck effect. They have a tight grip on information over there. First time I went over there when I did a study abroad in college, they were still in a Deng Xiaoping thaw, and we're opening up stuff, and like Google was legal, and then when I came back, Google was illegal, Facebook was illegal. They generally go, as I understand it, explained to me by my Chinese friends, like if you're in the city, it's fine. We'll get you a VPN. They don't care about us city folk. What they care about is the peasants. Like the peasants can't have information because they're the ones that will, topple the regime and stuff. So they have to be kept in the dark. But like, as long as we're cosmopolitan, urbane people, we can be trusted with information.
It's funny how history repeats itself, man. Mm-hmm. Let's keep the.
So it's communist and elitist at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think
it's like there's gleamings of the French Revolution back in the day. And there's a lot of that.
And there's I think like good. I can give a great historical example of where just like a minor cock up altered history. So in 19, what would it be? It's either 88 or 92. I'm going to get my dates off. Mm-hmm. East Germany's still a thing. Soviet Union's still a thing. Gorbachev is reforming the Soviet Union, but East Germany is hardcore communist. Mm-hmm. Their president at the time, Erich Honecker, I think, was so offended by Gorbachev thawing out that he wouldn't allow Gorbachev stuff to be printed in East Germany because he was considered like a limp-wristed pansy. Like it is hardcore German communism.
Yeah.
And people are trying to get out. It's very unpopular. They've literally walled in people in Germany, so you just can't go anywhere. You can't go into West Berlin. And there's a big shift in leadership, and what they come up with is like, all right, we're just going to do a PR stunt. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to let some people leave Germany, and if they fill out all the paperwork and they wait a few weeks, like we'll increase it by like 5-10%.
Yeah.
We'll go out and we'll make a big thing about how we're liberalizing and we're more open. Like, look, we're a cuddly communist regime you can love.
Right.
And so that'll buy us some time, and they'll understand. The press secretary for the Politburo in East Germany is going to talk about something completely different. And the new guy like hands him a note and he's like, by the way, read this. And he's like, meh. Yeah. So he gets in there and he's this old commie for whom press conferences are, I tell you the news, and then you go disseminate like what I told you verbatim. There's no questions here.
Right.
And
it's propaganda.
It's propaganda. And then somebody's like, well, when are we going to get, like, can any of us leave West Germany? And he goes, oh, hold on, I got a note about this. Yeah, we're opening up all the borders. And yep. And the guy's like, when?
Yeah.
And he's like, says effective immediately. And there was this bull rush that happens where just thousands of people in East Berlin all go to the borders and they're like, hey, he said we could leave. And there's so many people there that eventually they're like, fine.
Just let him go.
They open the doors, they start coming out, and then they were going to kick them out. They weren't going to let anybody back in.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of them were just parents that were getting ice cream in West Berlin. And eventually they were like, we can't do this. The whole thing broke down because one guy had a cock up.
What's interesting to me about that narrative is in the States, the way that a lot of people who were alive in that period of time remember it happening is very, very different. Ronald Reagan, tear down this wall. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting whenever I was talking to some German friends, and the Berlin Wall came up, and they're like, yeah, Reagan, he really must have changed the game for you guys. I was like, what are you talking about?
They're more into David Hasselhoff in my experience.
Yeah.
They're really
like, no. Like Reagan went there and he like gave the speech and tear down this wall, and then like shortly thereafter the wall's coming down. I mean, what do you guys? What's Reagan? Is he like a big deal there? It's like, do you think you guys are the reason the wall came down? They could not comprehend that so many Americans believe that Ronald Reagan went there and gave the speech and toppled the wall.
Yeah.
And then they gave their version of what happened. It's like, oh, that makes more sense as opposed to Reagan going and wagging his finger and then this wall crumbling.
I think I can say with fair certainty that the interpretation that Reagan brought down the wall through sheer rhetorical gravitas is 100% incorrect.
No, but I mean, do you ask the average American, what was the sequence of events?
If we go a step above that, many of my conservative friends would say that because Reagan increased military spending, that brinksmanship bankrupted
forced
the
them
Soviet
into
Union.
the position.
I don't buy that. I think that's giving communism way too much credit. I think communism is dumb and just breaks on its own stupid feet. Like, can I give you some examples of how dumb in the Soviet Union,
you
where
know
they're starving.
I generally don't like people talking about it's like communism. I get it. It sucks.
But I'm actually talking about communism. I'm talking like proper Soviet communism.
Allegedly, theoretically, it could be good on paper, and in practice, it falls apart. Yes, I get it. They've tried it in multiple countries, different variations. I get it. It's never a good thing. But to listen to you and Michael Malice talk about like the history of communism and the different cock-ups throughout history, it's actually very interesting. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'll give some examples of why this it doesn't work. There's a fundamental idea implicit in communism that you can change human nature and human incentives by government fiat. So I can say, from now on, you must care about this thing. We have decided that we all are going to we're all going to enjoy ballet now. You must enjoy ballet. I can't do that. What I can do is I can shoot you if you don't go to ballet, or I can pay ballet dancers more money, but I can't say that in your heart you must like ballet. So there are famines going on. What does the Soviet Union do? It says, well, the problem is that farmers aren't tilling enough soil. We're going to double the soil quota that they've got to till. So all the farmers went, all right. And they went out back and they lifted up the tines, I don't know the terms, the tines on the tractors. So that they were just raking the surface of it, and they could, and they could hit that quota. They wouldn't do anything. I interviewed a rather famous French urban planner named Alain Berthaud.
Wait a second. Is this a tongue? Is there a famous French urban planner?
Let me phrase this. The most famous French urban planner with whom I'm aware is Alain Berthaud. And I was talking to him, and because he'd worked in the Soviet Union, and he talked about how they'd have to over order glass for all the buildings they made. So like if you're going to put in 10 windows, they'd have to order 50, because the window manufacturers were given a quota of like, you must produce these amount of, and they were like, okay, fine, we'll make them this fucking thick. If they break this, your fault. And like, so they would, half your windows would be broken. You couldn't call them and be like, I want a refund, because they were also the government. And he was in Cuba, and like he was there with like an early laptop, and they were like, how many laptops do you have to buy till you get a good one? And he was like, what? And they're like, well, like if we buy a laptop, you usually need to buy 7 or 8, knowing that one of them will probably work. And he's like, no, they just all kind of work out of the box. But when you got that quota system of it's just output, there's this disconnect. And I think, to bring it back, I think communism is dumb and it inherently doesn't work. And regardless of whether Reagan's buying tanks or making speeches, it would have collapsed anyway. That's my interpretation.
So you were locking in Xi Jinping.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You've talked me out of trying to steer Condoleezza Rice or somebody else, some other lady of color, so that I could experience the world differently. You know because you've expanded my horizons beyond me trying to grow as a person to me liberating China.
Yeah, you were a generous, kind, benevolent force of nature.
And no one will ever believe me. The day after that happens, when I call, I'm like, hey, did you see the news yesterday? Where Xi Jinping kept getting his name wrong on television, and he didn't speak Mandarin very well at all. But he kept explaining how like Tibet wasn't China and they should get rid of these camps and things. That was me. I did that. Like, and I'll become the tin hat guy.
So specifically,
so who have you picked? I enjoy being interviewed here, but you've been deflecting for a long time now. Who are you gonna? Are we just Jeff Bezos shooting rockets? What are we doing?
Let's do Jeff Bezos, and then I'm not going to pretend to be a force of benevolence. I'm just gonna be like, how many billions do I have access to? All right, we got 24 hours. Let's fuck around.
There's just a lot of Bitcoin sent to Fang and Feather.
No, but first, start off. Who are all my favorite people? You get $1 billion. You get $1 billion. You get $1 billion. There's that. And then where's that yacht of mine? Then he has the world's biggest yacht or something. Cruise around that. Helicopter over, obviously.
Okay.
And then at the end of the day, he's like, can I get on one of these rockets? Is there the Blue Horizon, whatever it is? Does that work? Can I get one of those?
So I endorse this system because I'm fairly confident that I will be able to ride on one of the yachts you buy your friends.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Andrew, you get $1 billion.
Oh, fantastic. I'm assuming I'm second or third tier. If I'm getting $1 billion, fantastic. This is great. I'm all in favor of this. if you were charged with maximizing good impact of the world, and that was what you were going to do, what would you do?
Interesting. I would, you know what? I would have to, gosh, is it going to be such a not fun and interesting answer? But I would spend all of my money creating a private education system that basically, those formative years, if we get kids out of the factory system that has basically been how education has been done since like we were fucking farmers, right? That's when most people were making their living. Let's just get people through this public education system and, just get them to memorize rote pieces of information and then regurgitate it and then assume that they're educated.
Can I add a little bit to that? Because when we were mostly farmers, we were mostly farmers up till 1950.
Yeah.
But up till about 1880, we had what was called the little schoolhouse model. And that was the predominant model of education in the United States. Public education was not guaranteed; it was state by state.
Yeah.
But it was predominant by like 1880.
Yeah.
And the model was you have a schoolhouse, you have one teacher.
Yep.
And they're teaching all generations, and they're delegating a lot too. Mm-hmm. They're going like, Billy, you're pretty good at letters. You teach the alphabet to Tom.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on math with these kids. And it was very collaborative. And
it's much less of, okay, here's everybody sit there, don't move, listen to me in front of a chalkboard.
Right.
It completely reframing what education is and how it works. And the funding for this, I mean, with this many billions of dollars, making it sustainable over time. It's like, well, what's the model and the kids that are going out into the world and, gosh, I'm getting very, very complicated.
No, you could totally, I'm
trying to make this podcast simple here.
When you hijack Jeff Bezos,
right,
call your buddy Heaton and be like, I've got $1 billion. Also, do you know anybody in the school choice movement? And I'd be like, let me pull out my old-timey Rolodex. Yeah, like how much are you going to give them?
Becoming an educator, one of the profoundly most respected and lucrative things.
Okay, so it's not that you're just firing all the teachers.
No.
You're trying to change the paradigm
yes.
of like
the people.
We're going to give more incentive to becoming a teacher. We're going to try and make this a higher status element.
And
in
I
our
understand
society.
there's a lot of people who get into teaching for the right reasons, and they are brilliant. But I also know a lot of people who get into teaching because, you know what, I kind of like kids, and it's a steady paycheck, and I don't do anything too crazy, and I get 3 months off a year, and it's like, this is not a good series of priorities.
I'm going to meet you halfway. Here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Every school gets to have a secret ballot where they go, Coach Ted, who teaches history, is he a good teacher?
Right.
And if they say yes, he stays, and if they say no, he gets fired. Because there was one coach at my school who was a very dedicated coach and a very good teacher, but there were a bunch of coaches that clearly just wanted to be coaches, and they gave him history and they sucked.
Yeah. That I went to public high school in small town Texas. I'm very familiar with the paradigm.
I went from Oklahoma, so I just whatever you did minus 5 years.
So there's becoming an educator a very, very sought after and highly respected position, and then also. Being current, like very up to date and mindful with the state of technology. Because right now with AI and ChatGPT, you have a lot of educators running scared. It's like, oh, we can't have kids get access to this because it's going to write their term papers and and let them access this information and make the cases and for their positions, and like, they're not having to think for themselves. Like they were never having to think for themselves. They were just regurgitating facts back to you. And I think a better use of the current state of technology is to understand that you can't take the pee out of the pool. AI exists. So how do we teach kids not to ignore it and then, try and memorize or try and remember what you told them in the classroom? How do we teach kids to use this tool? Because it's not, hey, ChatGPT, give me the perfect essay. It's all about how you interface with the thing. This is prompts. Can you ask interesting questions in interesting ways to get you a really good result? I think that's a much more relevant and hopeful skill than educators just saying like, well, you have to put away your phones and you can't use this tool. It's like, well, the tool's going to be there no matter what. But I think in the next generation, the next the group of people that are moving into the workforce, the biggest advantage for them will be, how do I leverage this tool that exists? And to not teach them how to leverage that tool, what are you, crazy? This is an amazing opportunity for them to get a huge head start, and you're teaching them that it's the devil. Now, I'm the guy that, arguably could delete the internet. I'm no fan of what technology can do to people, but in the real world where technology doesn't get deleted with the push of a button, well, AI exists. Fair enough. how do we use it in the most helpful way possible?
I think that those wonderful teachers I had were being restricted by the system that they were operating in.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I would love to be
I've
able
seen
to give
that too.
them more of a free hand. So we had the little schoolhouse model that got supplanted in the 1880s when the first Secretary of Education from Massachusetts went to Prussia.
Yeah.
Prussia had the first universal public schooling model, and I think he rightly identified good elements and he didn't recognize bad elements. The good elements were it's universal, which I think is a good thing. I think we ought to have universal education. I think that is like a basic in our society.
I agree.
If you're born here, we're going to teach you how to do math and read.
People should have access to education.
And so that was a good thing, and that became the standard in America, which had not previously been. That was good. But what was kind of inbuilt into that model were two other things. One, there was a kind of then modernity element, a technological element to it, where the Prussians had looked at the older schoolhouse models, or whatever the equivalent was in Germany, probably parochial schooling, church schooling. They went, well, that's all agricultural. We're now living in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
We should bring our educational system up to speed and have it be industrial, which is why we now have kids being age cohorts, because we wanted to treat them like a conveyor belt, where you could crank them out and they're all going through that. We're now past the Industrial Revolution. We're living in the digital age, and our schooling has not updated the model in a significant manner. It's updated teaching techniques, but that basic structural model has remained the same. And I think we're due to have a new structural model. And then the other element that I think that was a bit insidious that was maintained there was the reason the Prussians had enacted that entire model of universal education was they were licking their wounds from the Napoleonic Wars, going, how did we had the best army in the world?
Yeah.
We got defeated by the French? How did that happen?
Yeah.
It's because our officers keep thinking for themselves. They need to understand how the chain of command works. And that was the purpose behind it was we're going to inculcate the new generation with an appreciation for the Kaiser, for an appreciation for authority. And that's part of why it caught on in America.
Ideology and propaganda and all that.
And part of why that new model caught on in America is guys like Rockefeller and Vanderbilt were like, one, makes total sense to me with the industrial model you're mentioning. Yeah. Absolutely. I have changed this industry that I'm working in, and I've brought us out of this piecemeal agricultural model. Makes total sense that we would modernize it. But also, I have all these people that used to work for themselves that are really irritating. Yeah. And I would love to have people just understand, do what the boss says. And so that kind of, let's figure out how to mold the minds of people and make us all be lockstep. That kind of brought it to, and I find that dangerous.
That idea of teaching people how to think, not what to think. Yeah. I think that's everything. If you can teach people how to think, not what to think, then you have a generation who can move into the world and be able to deal with whatever, world upheavals and crisis, like climate change. They understand, okay, the ideology is one thing, but let's think through this intelligently. Let's just not listen to that talking head. And then a lot of the teachers that I know, because I also know some good ones, behind the scenes, they will admit there's a lot of teachers, their colleagues, like, these people are not good. They're not good teachers. I have 3 kids, and we've had them in a couple of different private schools, and they go from class to class, and whenever you are in a very honest conversation with some of these teachers, kind of float the topic of, hey, so such and such.
Wait, how honest do you, like, are they coming here and you're getting them drunk? Or no, you just go in and you're like, who's a dickbag? No, and they're like, God, Tom.
I'll tell you, it's the parent-teacher conferences. Basically, these regular things where, like, here's the update on your kid's progress, and here's the work that they've done so far this quarter, this semester. And it's like, well, the topic will come up about the other teachers are working. It's like, yeah, my kid's having some questions. Occasionally some issues that come up with such and such teacher, and the number of times that you'll get like an eye roll, like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. Like, they know, other teachers know who's good and who's bad, and to have a way to get the bad teachers out and really empower the good teachers. Maybe it's not 80-20, maybe it's closer to like 70-30, but to empower the ones that are really brilliant, there for the right reasons, that's what I think would be a game-changing first step in reframing our educational system.
I'm all in favor of that. I don't actually know how to do that, though. I've thought about this. And we want to have a system where we reward teachers for doing well.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm 100% on board. I imagine most teachers are too. But then I start thinking about that, and like, I through no fault of I'm a very good teacher theoretically, through no fault of my own, I get a dud batch of kids, and they're just like, and I remember teachers telling me this, that like the age cohorts do change. Like, my year was a good year, like the year after us, God, that was a tough year.
Yeah.
The year after that, lukewarm. The year after that, fine, right? But there were trouble years, and there were like standout years, right? So if I'm a really good teacher, or they're like we're gonna there's these troubled kids that are on the cusp, so we're gonna give them Mr. Heaton because he's gonna pull one of those Captain, my Captain miracle things.
It's gonna be a Jaime Escalante moment where
but now though, like if you're now grading me based on the output of the kids, I'm sunk. Whereas the guy that randomly got the All-Stars, he's going to do really, really well.
Yeah.
So it's already hard to see how you're doing.
It is.
But I don't like the seniority model, because the seniority model, which is what we've been doing, is just however long you've been here, that's how well you're doing.
Right. Maybe it's based on how, like, what's the base level they start at and then how much do they improve. I don't know.
Yeah. Or you could have but if teachers vote, then it's a popularity contest.
Right.
Although it still might be the best thing to do. I don't know.
Yeah. You mentioned something that's, again, anybody that watches me and Andrew, you gotta have to get very comfortable with the idea of like chasing rabbit trails and detours. That's kind of the name of the game. But you mentioned a dud batch of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be very, very curious to know from class to class where the teacher perceives, oh, that was a good group of kids. It's like, they can't all have been good. There had to have been just a small handful of people in that good class that really just reframed and shaped the whole experience for not only the teacher, but everybody else. So that idea of kind of who are the heroes, like the stars, the personalities that really kind of uplift the energy and the environment and the atmosphere, I would be very curious to know what that number typically is, because if a room full of 25 kids, 25 of them aren't going to be good, 25 aren't going to be bad. I would think maybe it's like 4 or 5 are just the difference makers, where like 4 or 5, they're smart, they're funny, they're engaged. Other people see them interacting as like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. Yeah,
probably. I mean, it's probably a very small number that can spoil it, right? Because the best I've ever been in any job was as a tour guide.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many jobs, but tour guide was the best I've ever been.
By the way,
oh, that's right. I've given you a tour. Yeah, you've seen me in action.
Yeah.
You've seen me do my best work.
Well, we went to Edinburgh, Scotland, with 20 fans of the Whiskey Tribe channel, and we met you there, and you gave a private tour.
I gave you a private tour.
It was great.
Edinburgh. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I'm good at it. And I when I was doing that tour, it was tip based. So at the beginning of the tour, I would go, "Hey, I don't draw a salary. If you like the tour, please tip whatever it's worth at the end." Right.
I think I didn't tip you, but I bought you lunch.
But we were fine. This was I was wearing by the time you met me, I was wearing a suit. I was turning gray. Like we're very different camps.
Yeah.
I didn't need beer money. In fact, they needed somebody to restrain me.
Yeah.
But I even back then though, I can remember being vaguely aware of, if let's say I had a group of 20 people and 15 of them were just fine, and 5 of them like nah and just walked off.
Yeah.
That was a horrible group. Even though 15 of them were just fine, but 5 of them could completely sour the experience. Our minds tend to gravitate towards the negative thing.
Yes.
With teachers, I imagine it's even harder
because you're stuck with them.
You're stuck with them, and then I have to think that that's kind of a torturous situation to be in. You've got a kid that's extremely disruptive,
right,
who's ruining it for everybody else, but you're looking at the kid going, "You're a little shitbag." However, I know that this is because there's something deeply bothering you.
Yeah.
You're only 14. Like I don't want to consign you to the shitbag heap.
You're very often going to be one of the very few adults in their life that could.
Like something bad's happening at home, something bad happened to you, so I don't want to be mad at you, but you are ruining this for everybody, including me. Like that, I do not envy that.
No, neither do I. Neither do I. It's and there's got to be a better way of doing it. At this point, yeah. Another thing I would do if we got stuck in education, right?
Wait, hold on. So what's the ratio of giving billions of dollars to your friends versus school choice or whatever the education reform is?
I'm very selfish at heart. I spent the first 8 hours of 24 hours just like pissing away the money, Andrew.
Can you look up how much money Bezos has?
Sure.
Because I think that would actually be very difficult to like Brewster's Millions away Jeff Bezos' money in 24 hours. Like I think it would be just to spend it would be impossible. You could donate it, but it'd be tough. I think what you should do is you should allocate the donations at the beginning of the day and then fuck off.
Jeff Bezos' net worth $128.9 billion. So basically almost $130 billion.
All right. So right now, if you give $5 billion to education reform, that's a game changer right there. Trust, like,
you know what?
$5 billion's very,
You know what? I'm a player when it comes to this. I'm serious. I'm going to give away $10 billion of Jeff Bezos' money.
$10 billion's a lot of money to change education forever.
Now ask me how much.
So we have $111 billion left.
Right.
Okay.
I don't have that many friends.
Great.
You know what? I just upgraded you from 1 to 5 billion.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
And I would have settled for half that.
Nice. Well, you know what? I'm not in Jeff Bezos' Mount Brain, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I gotta have a lot of fun with whatever that was, 5 billion. Yeah, I gotta have a lot of fun with that. Okay. And then anything else you do, or is it just the rest of the day? What could so you've now, let's say you give away $30 billion to your friends.
Yeah.
You've given away $10 billion to education. You still have $70 billion left in the bank, and it's not even noon yet. What do you do with the remaining $70 billion?
The anarchist in me, and this is not the Michael Malice version of anarchist.
This is the Joker setting a pile of cash on fire.
That
yes,
version
that
of
kind
it.
of.
Yeah. Basically the chaos agent in me.
Yeah.
I would try and figure out how much of this $70 billion could I physically put in front of me, just like a pile.
Can I be your consigliere for the Jeff Bezos evening?
Yeah.
Here's what I want to do.
Yep.
Call up Whitewater Bay in Oklahoma City. It's the only water park with which I'm familiar. There might be a more local one.
Wait. You don't know Schlitterbahn?
I've heard of Schlitterbahn, but I've not been there.
It's the biggest water park on the planet.
Well, let's do that one then. Okay. So
It's like 90 minutes away.
So do they close like in May at a certain time?
Sure. Yeah.
Probably like 9 o'clock, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Call them and be like, hi, I, Jeff Bezos, am going to die tomorrow. I'm going to give you $500 million just to keep this open an additional 3 hours, but it's just me and my friends.
Oh, yeah.
William Shatner, who I've previously known from a rocket. Also, however much money you need to make champagne be the relevant lubricant and all of these things, and whatever you can turn it off, turn it on, but whatever ride I'm on needs to be champagne. And there will be a Scotch tub, trademark Andrew Heaton, which is a hot tub full of Scotch, which actually sounds horrible now that I think about it. Like simmering Scotch sounds real bad.
Yes, it's real bad.
But all the same, I've committed to it.
Technically, it's flammable.
Yep.
So you can't cigar in this hot tub.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
unless that's all you want to go out at the end of the day.
and then I would just like try and bring random celebrities I want to meet, and then
I don't give any fucks about meeting celebrities.
Yeah.
No.
You wouldn't want to. There's nobody you want. There's no actor you want to meet.
No.
I would want to talk to Patrick Stewart and William Shatner.
Really?
Yeah. I'd absolutely want to talk to them.
No. I'm going to go hard pass. No.
No.
0.
Really?
Yeah.
Any writers?
Oh yeah. Right. Sure.
Of course, I don't know if you could convince a writer in like 4 hours. Like, I am definitely Jeff Bezos. We're going to get you on a private plane to come to our Schlitterbahn champagne fest.
I think if you dropped a helicopter in their front yard, they probably.
That's a good power move right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess it's freaking Bezos.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could rustle up Michael Malice if you had a few $1 million. Like, we could go to Schlitterbahn. I could make that happen.
Wait, I think I could get Malice for less than a few million.
I mean, honestly, just getting us a helicopter to Schlitterbahn, we could probably do it tonight. You just have to get the helicopter.
You know, if we really put our heads together, Andrew, we pooled all of our resources, we could probably get a helicopter to Schlitterbahn right now.
We haven't talked about how we're going to monetize this yet, but can that be our goal, is to get a
helicopter to
Schlitterbahn? That's what we're going to be shooting for.
Let us know if you enjoyed the podcast of...
Would you touch it?
Yep.
I would.
If you could brain hostage anybody for 24 hours, who would it be and what would you do? Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Cheers.